Hey, yo, this is Dash, and today I'm going to be smoking a brisket. But I'm not going to be cooking a brisket just to be cooking a brisket or selling a brisket. I actually have a 10-pound brisket, and I'm going to trim the brisket. Cut all of this off. There you go. I'm going to take the beef fat that I get from it. I'm going to cut that up. And weigh it. Then, of course, we're going to cook the brisket. And once the brisket is done, I'm going to slice it up. And weigh that. And let's get this back. So we can see just how much a 10-pound brisket will actually yield. Get ready. All right, so before I even started filming in the kitchen, I went out to my Traeger and I got the Traeger full of pellets. All right, so today I'm using these Pit Boss brand pellets. So this is the fruit blend. We're gonna try it out. Today I'm using some Pit Boss, some new Pit Boss pellets, new to me. Then of course, I had to start the Traeger. Let me go ahead and get the Traeger started. Oh, it was already on. Turn it down, and then open the lid. Now, to go ahead back in the house and get my briskets trimmed and seasoned. All right, so I am back in the kitchen. I got the Traeger started. So first things first, I'm going to put a glove on. And I'm gonna get this brisket. So this is a 10-pound brisket. It is literally 9.99 pounds. And at $4.19 a pound, you do the math on how much brisket cost me, or this brisket cost me. So I'm just gonna open up this package, and yes, I'm going to rinse this brisket off. Cool water. Now I'm gonna flip this so that the decal of fat is pointing towards me so I can cut it out. I'm gonna just kind of peel this up a little bit loosely, and I aggressively go in, stick my knife in and down, and I just trace behind the fat. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where you will develop a feeling for where the fat is, how much fat there is, and you can kind of just feel it. So that I'm gonna cut all of this out. Cut all of this off. There you go. There's more of it here. It was laying on top. And I'm gonna trim the underside and get some of this off as well. Mind you, you could be here all day trimming this fat from underneath the brisket. Just get a good majority of it. Any errant huge pieces, trim all of that. that I'm not trimming around the brisket. I'm not going to do any of that. I want this brisket. I'm selling this brisket for, well, I'm selling this brisket by the slice basically, or I'm going to slice this up. So I need as much of this brisket to remain intact as possible. So I'm going to turn this around so that as I'm right-handed, I can go with the fat here. Now this is a pretty, I won't say egregious, but pretty decent piece of fat here. I'm just going to come in here, keep my knife pointed down because it is pointed towards my hand, and I'm going to trim this rather aggressively. You see my knife is going down into the meat, and I'm just moving this back and then peeling up the fat as I go along. I'm going to come back to the edge and take a little bit more of this fat that's on this edge off. Come back. Just grabbing the fat, using it to my advantage to pull up and out. There you go. How you trim your brisket is going to vary, of course, depending on who your brisket is for. This brisket is for a customer of mine, and they don't appreciate all the fat. So I trim a lot of the fat off ahead of time so that, one, it'll help my brisket cook faster. Two, it'll allow me to have more brisket to sell. Just that little flap there. Cut that off. Stick that in the tallow pile. I'm gonna take the tallow and do something with that later. There's a lot of folks that claim to be making sausage, or that make sausage or use this and that fat in sausage making. I don't have a sausage maker. I just got my brisket. So I'm gonna get this seasoned, and then I'll see you guys. I'll back out at the Traeger. All right, I'm back out at the Traeger, and we're gonna take this brisket. Because I season my brisket on aluminum foil to make it easy for cleanup in the house, I'm just gonna take this, put it on the grate, let the trash truck drive past at 5:30 in the morning. Just gonna slide this onto the grate, just like that. Easy peasy, no mess. Now I'm gonna shape this, move it out just a little bit, and get it centered on the grate. And I'll see this in about an hour. I'll check on it. All right, so before I go in the house, I'll let you know what the setup is. I have my Traeger set to 225 degrees, and I also have some water pans. There's a pan of water there, and there's a pan of water there. It's kind of hard to see back there, but as it brightens up, or as the sun comes up, I'll show you those water pans a little later. They hold about a pint of water, and I try to put some water into the cooking chamber when I'm cooking, so that if I miss sometimes spritzing, it's not an issue, it's not a problem. But I will spritz this brisket starting in about 2 hours. So I'll check on the brisket in an hour. Nah, who am I kidding? We'll be back out here in 2 hours. I'll see you guys then. You guys saw me cut the tallow off of the brisket. I'm actually going to cut it up. I'm gonna weigh it to see how much loss I had from cutting up the tallow, or cutting off the tallow. But I'm going to cut it up into smaller pieces so that it'll render a little better. I've seen people use like meat grinders and other things like that. I don't have a meat grinder, so we're just gonna kind of dice this up, get it into a pan, and we will render this tallow. All right, so I'm gonna get my scale worked out here, and we're gonna see how much. So 1 pound, 13.6 ounces. I think the foil pan weighs just a few ounces, or excuse me, yeah, just a few ounces. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this out on the trigger. All right, so I'm back out at the trigger. I have my beef fat here. I'm gonna go ahead and get it open. Now I moved the things around. So I told you about the water pans that I use, and I moved them to the front because I added a shelf in the back, and I'm going to add my beef fat to the back of the trigger there, and we, everybody get in the pool.
Everybody into the pool.
I'll be back to check on this in a little bit. All right, so it's been an hour. I came out here just to check on the beef tallow. And nothing really happening. I have it set at 250 degrees. My water pans are giving off some gas there, well, vapor, and my brisket is looking fine. All right, just gonna leave that be. Here, maybe I can stick it out here. I don't know. All right, we're just gonna let it roll. See you guys in another hour or so. All right, so I am back out at the trigger. It has been 2 hours. Let's see what this looks like. So the water steaming. The tallow is not doing anything. Oh, there is actually a little bit of rendered tallow in there. But I'm gonna get this out of the way so I can spritz my brisket. Oh shoot, I left my spritz inside. But let's look at the brisket. 2 hours. Starting to get some color on it. Look good. Let me go get my spritz bottle. All right, so here's a bottle. I've had this bottle for years, but you pump it up, and I'm just using water, so we're just gonna put a light spritz on everything. That's it. I'm gonna put my tallow back in here, or the beef fat. I'm trying to get some tallow. Not very warm in there, I guess, but we have it only at 225. I'm just gonna let it sit in there while it's smoking, so maybe I'll get some smoke flavor in my tallow. All right, back out at the trigger like I never left, even though it's been another hour, a little over an hour. So let's look at this thing. Even though I have this up at 250 degrees, there's a little wisp of vapor evaporation there. The tallow, oh, I'm starting to see some movement there, but it's real slow. All right, but I'm most concerned about the brisket. Let's get this tallow out of the way. Let's see. Brisket is looking good. I got some good rose color on it. I'm gonna get a thermometer and test it, but at this point, it really doesn't matter what the temperature is. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it, bring it in the house, and put it in the oven. Unless it's too cold, like 100 and, let's see. If it's more than 150 degrees, I'm gonna pull it. If it's less than 150 degrees, we'll leave it out here. Let's see. Survey says 158. So almost 160 degrees. I'm gonna pull it. All right. So let's move beef fat out of the way for a moment. So when I pull my briskets from the smoker and I take them in the house to put them in the oven, if it's a small enough cook, you see, I'm not adding anything to my brisket. The juices from the brisket, the jus from the brisket will provide. I'm not adding anything. I've been seeing people lately put beef tallow in with their brisket, but it's gonna render off of the brisket. Why are you adding it to the brisket? But maybe that's just me and my northern thinking. Anyway, I'm gonna get this in the house. I'll see you guys inside in a second. All right. Don't try this at home. I'm a professional. Balancing your beef fat in one hand and your brisket on one finger. Yeah. So let's get the oven started. And we're gonna put this on bake, 300. Start. Just make sure there's nothing in the oven. Now, again, I'm going to show you what I add to my pan when I wrap my brisket. Are you watching? Want to make sure you have this in plain view. That is it. I don't add anything to the brisket. The brisket will provide. I was wondering if I should cover this and put it in the oven. There is a little bit of tallow coming off of this, but not nearly enough yet. So I'm gonna leave it uncovered. I'm just gonna chuck it in the oven. So yeah, I'm gonna put this down below and get this top shelf out. So I can make tempting the brisket easier. Get this in the oven, and I'll see you guys. I'll check on this. I'm not really going to check on it. I'm going to put a probe in there in a moment or momentarily, and I will. Maybe I should have waited at this point, seeing how much it weighs. But either way, I'm going to get a probe in here, and then once the probe hits about 200 degrees, I'll start probing it or feeling for doneness, and then I'll bring you guys back. Yo, the way this smells is crazy. It smells fantastic. It's definitely rendering. So it was good that I put some smoke on it, but we definitely have some tallow rendered out here. And when I say it smells fantastic, it smells so good. But it's been an hour. I am going to just mix this around a little bit. And there still seems to be some pieces that are like rendered more than others, but This is crazy. I haven't rendered tallow in a while. It's been quite some time. All right, I'm gonna put it back in the oven. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, let's check the temperature on the brisket. Looking at 178, so we still have some time. Oh, I just closed the oven like I don't have to put this back. Don't try moving hot pots and pans like I just did. Unless you have been desensitized to heat. Your fingers are, I won't say numb, but handling hot things anymore, goodness. All right, I'll see you guys in another half an hour or so. All right, so, all right, so it's been another half an hour, just about. And I think we got everything now. There's just a few pieces that aren't, I'm gonna say aren't rendered, but I'm gonna pour that off and strain it. And while I'm here, let me check the, what do I do with the, oh, it's over here. We're getting there. It's showing a temp. We're just under 200 degrees and it's getting there. I'll let that go for another 15 minutes or so and then I'll check it. I'm gonna set an alarm. Let's go 15 minutes. Check it again. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna strain this. So I have a bigger strainer and then a smaller strainer. And we're just gonna put this into a, I feel like I need a bigger, a bigger catchment device. Oh. This is a 2-cup container. This is a 3-cup container. Let's get a funnel just so we can make sure this sits on here right. And we'll use the big strainer. No, you know what? Let's just use the little one. All right. So I want to pour this so you guys can see too, but I'm just going to pour this. I feel like I need to squeeze this. I've seen people kind of squeeze this to get all of the juices out of that. But oh, here's some cotton gloves and here's some nitrile gloves. So let's see here. Get back there for a moment. Oh yeah. This is one of those, but wait, there's more moments. Woo. It is hot, for sure. wonder if I could, like, how I could smash this better. Ooh. Coming right through that nitro glove, but oh my, this smell, it smells fantastic. Whew. It honestly smells like beef bacon. Ooh, it's hot. All right. I think that's about as good as I'm gonna get it. I don't know, I could probably let it sit here for a little while and cool for a little bit, but I feel like I'm gonna get the most yield while it's still warm. Like, geez. Obviously. Crazy. All right, I'm done. Now I got to clean up my mess here that I made on the counter, but I have some tallow. I'm going to be trying to clean it up. I don't know how or what, or if I'll film it, but that is 2 cups of rendered tallow from, what was it, 1 pound, 13 ounces of fat. I don't know exactly how that equates, but nonetheless, I got a mess to clean up, and I have some beef tallow. For what? I don't know. Stay tuned. I still have some time left on. We got another 7-8 minutes or so for my brisket there, and then I'll check it and pull it. So I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so it's been another 15 minutes. And we are golden. All right, so I'm gonna get this out. Woo. All right, so here's our baby brisket, basically. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna let this sit here for about an hour. I'm not in a rush. I have a portion of this that is going to a customer, but I have a few hours before I need to deliver it to him. So I'm gonna let this cool. If I were pressed for time, I would take the juices, the jus, off or out of here, because that's gonna help keep it warm. So I might actually just pour it off so that I can handle this a little sooner. But I'm gonna pour the juices off, set them aside, let those kind of cool and solidify, and then I will weigh and cut up this brisket for you guys in about an hour. So I'll see you then. Okay, so I am back, It has been a little over an hour. Oh, I put the glove in the wrong hand. Alright, so I have my brisket. I just lightly covered it, and I have my brisket here. And it is still warm, but definitely not hot. Alright, so here's my brisket. And this brisket was all of 10 pounds when I started. And what I'm going to do now before I start cutting, or should I wait until... I'll wait until we're done, after I take out any excess waste, so I can get a more accurate picture. Actually, let's weigh it now, before and after, so we can see how much, I won't say I throw away, but how much is cut off and tossed. So I have a wet paper towel underneath my cutting board to keep things from moving around. The cutting board from moving around. Turn this on. All right. So it says we have 5 pounds, 15.4 ounces. So we started at 10 pounds. And we have a little more, or almost 6 pounds. So by the time we're finished here, we'll probably have a little more than 5 pounds of brisket that I can cut up to be sold. All right. So let's get this out. Now, when you have a brisket, you have 2 different muscles. There is the point that is on top, and there's the flat that is down at the bottom. This is the fat cap, so this is the fat side. And I'm going to stick my knife directly in between those 2 muscles, where that big decal of fat runs in between. And I'm going to come to the right, turn my knife, take it out, turn it around, come back to the left. Just follow the seam of fat and cut in between that seam of fat, and you'll separate the point from the flat. And I'm going to put this point off to the side. There's extra fat in here. We'll just take that out. And then what I'm going to do is flip this over. Now at this point, I'm going to cut against the grain. Perpendicular to how the muscle is running. And we're just going to pull out some slices. These are like healthy 1/8 inch slices. Be mindful of your fingers. Clean the knife off a little. All right, so let's pull a piece of brisket out of the middle here. And it's still warm to the touch. Pretty decent there. You'll never see me squeeze the brisket. It's just not what I do. Work so hard to keep the moisture in the brisket. Why would you squeeze it out after you finish cooking it? We'll cut this up so I can pick it up a little easier. Get it back into my pan. And we'll get that in the pan. Now, the point is this piece. So let's clean up the cutting board just a smidge. All of these pieces that are here and this little bit of seasoning, if I were making some brisket beans, this is what I would collect and put off to the side to cut that up and put it into the beans. All right, this is a little bit of fat, so I'm just gonna push off on this edge and see where that fat ends. I'm gonna come here and square that up. This piece is the piece that I might nibble on, but I'm gonna take the point and cut it into about 1.5 inch pieces, or 1.5 inch thick. Now this is with the grain, the way that the muscle is running. Now I'm gonna then take this and turn it 90 degrees and cut against the grain. So I thought this was more fat, so we're gonna cut into here. Now these are getting cut into, like, again, 1/8 inch slices. Now this isn't a how-to video. This is how I do my brisket type video, or how I do this video. You can take as much or as little of the information that I provide and do with it as you will. But this is how I cut up briskets for my customers when I'm serving my catering customers. That brisket is moist as the day is long. When you get down towards the end, the brisket doesn't necessarily sit the same way. I'll just flip it on its side, on one of the cut sides, and I slice it this way. The slices, you know, you're cutting just a little differently, but you're still cutting the meat again against the grain. And all you have to do now is when you go to put it in your pan, just stand it right back up, and you'll have the same orientation cut as your other cuts, your previous cuts. Same thing with this, the butt end basically. And so there you have it. But this is the butt end, or the end of the brisket. And at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and weigh this brisket back out. Let's see how much or what is left. Try to get this all towards like one section here. And this is all that I'm And this part, I'm actually not going to just throw away. This is meat. Oh, here's meat. This is all fat. Awesome. But I'm biased. I happen to like my brisket. Put that off to the side. I'll get that cleaned up later. And this glove, we'll take that off. Clean up the mess on the counter. And let's get this back. £5, 10.9 ounces. Final weight after we trimmed the brisket from a 10-pound brisket. We cooked the brisket and now I sliced it up. Now I have an order for 3 pounds of brisket, and then I have 5.5 pounds of, or excuse me, 2.5 pounds of brisket left over that I can sell to someone else, or my family might get some. What I've been doing when I have cooks like this, or when I have food left over, if you will, is this is when I will portion a little bit of this up and make my wife little, like, not meal kits, but little kits where maybe 2 pieces of lean and 2 pieces of moist, so that she can take and have a snack for lunch, or have a snack, or put a pack or 2 of this with something else in order to make a lunch for her when she goes to work. So thank you so very much for watching. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Tell me what you guys think. Would you kick that out of bed? You let me know, because I wouldn't. Just that brisket is good money. All right. Anyway, thanks again as always for watching. I'll see you next time.
More butter, baby.